Tonight, the camera drifts through a patient universe, where every planet seems to be waiting for someone to whisper goodnight. On the left, a blue world glows like a sleepy lamp left on in a child's room. On the right, a red one lingers with the dignified expression of an overcooked tomato that has seen too much. Between them, labels, orbit, lines, and floating points behave with the confidence of experts at a conference no one fully understands. This is not chaos. This is celestial paperwork. Some words are frozen so completely that even their silence appears to have frost on it. Their surfaces shine with the polite cruelty of winter windows. Nothing hurries there. Even the cracks seem to pause between thoughts. And then come the ringed giants, those grand aristocrats of the void, always arriving as if they had made an appointment with eternity. A ring around a planet is often described as dust and ice, but tonight, it may also be understood as the universe, absent-mindedly doodling in the margins. Far below these elegant arrangements, humans sit at desks and screens, pretending they are merely studying data. In truth, they are being quietly adopted by wonder. A scientist leans toward a monitor. Another points at a red planet on a screen. A laser crosses a laboratory table with the dramatic self-importance of a cat walking through a room it does not pay for. No one says much in the subtitles, except thank you, again and again, like a polite machine trapped in an endless ceremony. It is strangely fitting. Space does inspire gratitude, especially when it keeps its distance. The colder the planet, the softer the imagination becomes. Ice on a distant world is not just weather. It is memory made visible. A glacier on Earth may groan and shift. A glacier in the mind of a sleepy viewer simply glows and waits. One world is half snow, half fire. A very efficient planet. It has solved the problem of seasonal indecision by having all the moods at once. Another world carries clouds the color of cream, stirred into tea. It turns slowly, as if trying not to wake the stars around it. Another appears scarred, cratered, and dusty, with a giant glowing wound in its center. Even damage looks majestic when seen from far enough away. This is one of the oldest tricks in astronomy and in feelings. Distance turns violence into pattern. Distance turns loneliness into elegance. Distance turns a rock into a destiny. The researchers in their white coats continue to gather under screens full of planets, charts, and impossible names. They discuss orbit paths with the solemn concentration usually reserved for family recipes. One can almost hear the secret emotional life of the meeting table. It has supported elbows of hope for years. There are observatories too, full of telescopes, aimed upward, like flowers, that have chosen a very ambitious sun. A dish in orbit sends out a beam. A giant antenna on a mountain waits inside wind and cloud. A room full of machines hums in the gentle language of things that work even while people grow tired. This may be the true romance of science. Not the sudden flash of discovery, but the quiet loyalty of repeated looking. A cold exoplanet, after all, does not knock on the door. It waits in darkness until somebody notices the smallest hint of its passing. And somebody usually does. Tonight, those somebodies are everywhere. A young researcher works at glowing screens. A hand sketches galaxies on paper beside small planetary models. A telescope points at a screen with all the confidence of a dog barking at its own reflection. Yet somehow, among the beams and labels and diagrams, tenderness grows. Not sentimental tenderness, measured tenderness, the kind that calibrates itself before speaking. People stand on mountaintops and look up. On a desk, a model called Bible Star C rests in sunlight. In a lab, laughter appears for a moment, bright and surprised. Even in a film about remote worlds, the nearest miracle is often a face turning toward another face in shared delight. Then, the planets return. Jupiter rolls by in striped silence. Saturn follows in ceremonial rings. One world flickers with lightning, as if remembering an argument. Earth appears briefly, blue and improbably familiar, like a note folded into the pocket of a very large coat. The instruments glow again. Simulations bloom. A small bright world circles another. A giant surface glitters like a city that forgot whether it was night or dawn. A lighthouse shines in cosmic weather. Another planet turns under rings and stars, with the composure of a dancer, practicing alone. More scientists watch screens. More telescopes point upward. A label appears for PS RB 1620-26B, which sounds less like a planet and more like a password, generated by an exhausted moon. Still, the researchers look at it with real affection. This is another charming habit of the species. Humans cannot resist naming things they may never touch. A ringed world drifts before a violent nebula. Another rotates through color. Another swirls with white and blue clouds. Meteors lie scattered beside fire. A massive Saturn fills the frame like an emperor who has misplaced his kingdom but kept the jewelry. Then comes a vast explosion. Then, a planet emitting blue light. Then, a glowing sphere wrapped in dust and stone. Then two ringed worlds, side by side, apparently attending the same impossible gala. At this point, one suspects the cosmos is showing off. And perhaps it is. But boasting is harmless when done at a distance of millions of miles. A hot, orange world confronts a dark companion. More planets gather in halos. One explodes into fragments. Another keeps exploding beside Saturn with almost theatrical dedication. A blue world is struck by a black sphere and answers with beams and flame. Elsewhere, a red planet glows through its own cracks. Elsewhere, a strangely labeled body turns in the dark, carrying the cumbersome dignity of a catalog entry, trying to become myth. Bright centers appear, planets orbit, and striped giants glide under white light. Cloud decks below, rings cut the edge of the frame. The planets line up as if for a family portrait, arranged by a very distracted god. Then we are back with the researchers, who stare at Jupiter with the serious expression of people trying to understand soup. By reading its steam, Jupiter's cloud bands ripple in close view. A meeting continues. The observation station points into the night. A burning world scatters debris. A scientist presents data. Tiny blue microbes glow in a dish, labeled with yet another cryptic planetary name, as if even bacteria have become interns in this grand astronomical office. Nebulae spread out in silence. A giant, patterned planet turns. A sphere made of lights pulses around a brighter core. Saturn appears again, because Saturn knows exactly what the audience wants, and has no intention of being modest about it. A galaxy model spins beneath the camera. Telescopes on Earth aim toward a blue world and a spacecraft. Two bright stars burn far away. A scientist works at a microscope, while stars glitter outside the window. Another meeting gathers around a long table. Another lab surrounds a glowing sphere, full of tiny lights. By now the film has made an important scientific point, though not necessarily on purpose. Cold worlds do not feel empty when watched with care. They feel occupied by attention. A telescope, lens frames Saturn, a puzzle-shaped Earth floats among planets, one piece missing like a thought that vanished just before sleep. A young man sits on a bed and stares at a poster of Saturn. This may be how astronomy truly begins. Not at the observatory, but in a quiet room where someone realizes they are willing to be small beneath something beautiful. More ringed planets drift across the screen. A city-lit world shines. In close-up, scientists laugh around a monitor. A huge dish antenna waits under the Milky Way. An older researcher studies star data in an office. Outdoor telescopes stand among mountains. A younger scientist checks galaxy images beside a telescope. The observatory crowns a mountain in daylight. Inside, someone operates the instrument with the reverence of a pianist playing for a very shy audience. Three scientists sit before a galaxy image. A camera lingers on an old book. This is a useful reminder that every future discovery eventually becomes a page, and every page once began as someone staying awake too late. A scientist tends glowing instruments. A ringed world shines in space. More notes are taken. More screens are watched. A beam rises from a mountain into the night. A group in the lab laughs again around a computer. Then, a close view of a young scientist with complicated charts, looking exactly like a person who has misplaced sleep in exchange for meaning. Two ringed planets drift through dust. Another meeting forms around an oval table. A bright spiral galaxy turns. A red planet with a ring stares back. Then, a brighter red, orange world. Then a white, human-shaped model appears beside a burning planet, which is the sort of image that makes perfect sense only when one is nearly asleep. A sun burns above a gray lunar surface. A telescope points at a bright world. A planet glows under several rings. Another red world hangs above a giant white ring. Screens display Saturn and charts. Two versions of Jupiter appear side by side, as if the universe could not decide which opinion of Jupiter to keep. A man watches two planets, connected by white lines. A ringed world, with many orbiting rocks, crosses a bright sun. Scientists gather before a giant image of Jupiter. A man points at a huge model solar system. Another ringed gray-brown world fills the frame. A document, with a majestic tangle of letters and numbers, is read with seriousness, because nothing says cosmic destiny quite like paperwork with a name no pillow could remember. A ringed planet sits above a rocky yellow landscape. Scientists return to the table again. A telescope lens reflects the galaxy. A spiral galaxy blooms in close-up. A researcher studies Saturn on a computer. At the observatory, several scientists adjust the outdoor telescopes under open sky, moving with the patient choreography of people who know the stars will not hurry for them. Inside the control room, many others work among screens and instruments. Three scientists watch data and cosmic images. A man studies formulas and graphs. A group faces a bright planet on a large display. Night settles around a white observatory, while four figures look up. Inside, a researcher studies Saturn data among microscopes and lenses. The telescope lens reflects a galaxy. Four researchers stand before a giant display of Saturn and its moons, accompanied by another magnificent string of letters and numbers. proof that the universe enjoys both beauty and administrative burden. An older researcher points to the image. A spiral galaxy shines alone. A gray-haired man sits in thought, beside books and a globe, looking out toward stars, as if trying to remember something he has never actually learned, only felt. A woman works at a microscope, while a spiral image glows on a nearby screen. Morning arrives at a dome and telescope platform. A researcher types between Saturn data and code. Then back to the heavens. A banded giant hangs in space. Its surface appears in close detail. A telescope eyepiece sits beside a screen marked with another cryptic designation. A dashboard full of charts circles an image of Saturn. A huge planet turns half in sunlight. Then, a stranger landscape appears, covered in curious plants and watched by a giant world overhead. A spacecraft glints beside Earth. A dark planet blocks the center of a galaxy's light. An asteroid hangs above Earth. A red-ringed planet appears over another world, under a hot star, labeled K2 to 1117b. Another dusty giant is lit from the side, with more faint lettering nearby. A complex probe drifts in Earth orbit among debris. A great telescope glows blue in space. 3 astronauts work at a control console, with quiet concentration, which is comforting because even among the stars, someone still has to press the correct button. A screen shows constellations and a line graph beneath a crab icon. 2 bright planets appear together. Researchers gather close to a monitor. A man watches cosmic images at his desk. A lecture room appears briefly. Then, once more, the exoplanets arrive. Red and ringed and named, like software updates from another civilization. A giant red world stands beside a ringed brown one. The red surface burns in close up. A red world and a golden world share the frame. A red sun, a ringed world, and the text K2 to 117b appear together. Several ringed planets circle a red sun. A ringed planet and a small moon pass before the sun. A blue bar marks K2 to 1117 above another ringed world. Asteroids circle a ringed planet in red nebula light. A man's silhouette stands before the cosmos. Data overlays surround another labeled ringed world. Models of Earth and Saturn sit on a table, like 2 old colleagues, who disagree on almost everything, except the value of good lighting. Earth drifts among asteroids. Earth, Saturn, and Neptune models line up together. A giant planetary surface fills the frame. A close view of Earth appears. A blue-ringed world turns. Earth floats on water, splashing at the edges, as if the universe briefly misplaced a marble in a sink. Another lone planet hangs in space. Researchers work at computers in the lab. Telescopes and monitors fill the room. A burning ringed planet appears again. On a stack of papers, the title K2 to 117b mass, unresolved waits, patiently, reminding everyone that the universe does not answer every question before bedtime. A meeting continues around a big screen. A researcher sketches a planet structure on a board. A cratered planet burns from within. A blue-ringed planet, labeled K2 to 117b appears. A burning red world and an icy world are shown together. A cloud-wrapped planet passes before the sun. Now, the film grows colder and quieter, and in many ways kinder. A sun rises behind a gray planet. An icy world floats beside a lava one. A river of magma crosses a dark surface. A frozen giant rises over snowy ground. Dust storms climb from a planet. Thin clouds curl over Earth. A circular storm rotates. Volcanic ash spreads. A red planet glows behind the horizon. Energy splits a planet from its center. Another giant rises above a moon. Like plain, lava, and ice share one barren surface. A blue world rises through its atmosphere and throws a shadow below. A hidden planet waits behind thick clouds. A lava lake boils in smoke. Dark rock, sunlight glitters across an ocean world. Waves strike an icy sea. More waves hit the frozen shore. An astronaut's boots stand over a lava lake. Glowing mushrooms emerge from the dark ground. Because even in the most solemn cosmic montage, someone has allowed fantasy to come in quietly and remove its shoes. Sunlight falls across a wide shoreline, half bright and half shadowed. A crater lake lies among plants and trees. Then the humans return to K2 to 117b. 3 scientists study a 3D model in space. One researches the planet in a microscope, field lab. Another stands beside a giant telescope at night. Another presents a slideshow. Another smiles at a planetary simulation on a screen. The K2 to 117b system appears with many planets, circling a red star. A scientist holds up a physical model to explain it. K2 to 117b itself glows quietly in space. More planets orbit through the dark. Its model rotates again on a screen. A telescope circles Earth in orbit. A close-up of polished hardware and purple glass reminds the viewer that discovery is often made of metal, patience, and the refusal to stop asking quiet questions. A giant station floats above Earth at sunrise. A computer shows a molecular structure and data. 6 scientists sit together at a crowded research table. One screen still carrying the name K2 to 117b like a lullaby translated into engineering. A white satellite dish turns under blue sky. 4 men sit in a meeting and discuss the project. A hand guides a mouse over charts. 3 scientists observe through telescope and microscopes. People look up into the dome of a planetarium, where galaxies bloom overhead. And finally, a hot star fills the center while many planets circle it in different paths. This is where the story rests. Not with an answer, but with an orbit. Not with certainty, but with motion so calm, it can carry a tired mind away from itself. Some planets burn, some freeze, some wear rings like crowns, some hide in cloud, dust, or numbers. And somewhere, in laboratories, offices, observatories, and quiet bedrooms, people continue to look up at them and feel their own thoughts become wider and softer. That may be enough for one night. The cold worlds can keep turning without supervision. The scientists can keep watching. The stars can continue their ancient habit of shining too far away, to be useful and too beautiful to ignore. For now, the viewer may simply drift, slowly, quietly, gratefully, perhaps. Thank you, says the subtitle over and over. And for once, the universe seems polite enough to say it back. Sleep well.